We have Dr. John in the studio from Creation Ministries International. Good morning, Dr. John.
Yeah, good morning, Mick.
Great to see you here, Dr. John. Dr. John, my father-in-law sent an email to my entire family, and we've got lots of little cousins, and there's quite a few in our family, basically telling everyone they had to go online tonight to the Creation Ministries page because there's a thing on tonight. And I thought, wow, that looks interesting. Do you know about that one?
Yes, I do, Mick. It's a talk. You can join it by Zoom, and it's a talk from Dr. Taz Walker, who's our resident geologist/engineer.
Yeah,
and he's giving a talk on. I'm sure it will be mainly geological evidences for Noah's flood.
Yeah,
but it'll be geology in general. And all anybody has to do is go to the creation.com website, and it's very easy to follow the prompts and log into Zoom at 7:30 tonight.
Yes, I've noticed there's a little button there that says online events. You just click on there, and there it is. You can click onto it, and it's actually counting down at the moment.
That's right.
To the exact moment when it's ready to go. They've even got a live Q&A session after it, which will be pretty cool, but there'll probably be a lot of people online as well.
Well, it might be difficult to get your question because there'll be a lot of people asking them. But look, anybody who's got any doubts about geological evidences for the flood, that is the show to watch. And look, if you're a parent out there and you've got school-aged children, then encourage them to watch it because they're not going to hear this at school.
No.
They're only going to hear it from Christian sources like Creation Ministries, and it'll be so obvious when they hear it that they'll be forewarned, I suppose you could say, when they go to their science lessons in school. So Taz will be putting out the biblical history of the flood and showing how all the evidence is absolutely supported. I talk about that on the program here, but it'll be great to hear a geologist do it, and he's a very good presenter. So at 7:30 tonight, creation.com, tune in.
Yes, and of course, kids, not everything you learn at school is 100% accurate. I remember as a child, I got told that if I didn't wash behind my ears, that I'd grow potatoes. Well, I haven't got any potatoes there. I got told if I ever told a fib that my nose was going to grow. Well, that didn't happen either. I also got told that I before E, except after C, was pretty much how you spell, and then I got marked down for spelling the word glacier incorrectly. And my teachers told me you won't always have a calculator in your pocket. Do you remember that, Dr. John? Yes. It's like, why can't we just carry a calculator? Oh, you'll never, you won't always. Well, guess what? We all have a calculator in our pocket all the time now. And I also got told that Pluto was a planet. But then I got told it wasn't a planet. Then I got told it was a planet again. Then I got told it wasn't a planet again. I don't even know whether it's a planet or not at the moment.
Sounds like the oscillations of Pluto, doesn't it?
It's lost in space, yeah. Yes, so that is exciting, Dr. John, tonight. Geological Meta-Catastrophe, it's called, and it sounds awesome, particularly whilst we're in lockdown, to have this sort of stuff going on. And they're doing it every couple of weeks by the looks of it. That's awesome.
Yes, there'll be other programs to follow this, but this one will definitely it'll be a scene-setting program.
Yeah,
because once you get that evidence for the flood locked in, then you can understand all the geological formations around the world. It's easy.
Wow. And Dr. John, look, before we go too far, I have to bounce back to last week and ask you a question that came in. Of course, we've been speaking for a few years now, Dr. John, doing our interviews and sessions here, and you really haven't told us a lot about your life in the Navy, and that was really exciting last week. I've got to say, I really enjoyed learning about some of that stuff you did because it was really cool. And there was a bunch of other people sent in messages as well, more just comments. But one of them came in and they actually asked if you could mention the names of the Navy vessels that you were on.
Yes, Mick. Well, my first ship was HMAS Supply, which was an oil tanker. and the job of that ship was to refuel other ships at sea. So, I mean, that was what we did all day. You'd be steaming alongside another ship. They'd fire the line over and then drag the refuelling hoses over.
Oh, like you were saying last week where you had to go across, the doctor had to zip across. Well, they'd send a fuel line across as well.
Oh yeah. The tanker had quite a number of derricks on both sides of the ship, and it didn't matter whether you had
What's
one
a derrick?
ship streaming along a derrick,
Yes.
a crane type thing.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and you might have a ship steaming along on the port side and another one on the starboard side, and you'd be able to refuel a couple of ships at once.
While you're moving.
Oh yeah,
That's pretty cool, yeah.
yeah. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit tricky for the people who are doing the steering, but that wasn't me. I didn't have that job. But yeah, no, that was very, very interesting. The first major international naval exercise I was on, we ended with a serious disaster. HMAS Melbourne collided with an American destroyer, the Frankie Evans, and a lot of lives were lost on that. And I was taken over by helicopter to the Melbourne to assist with casualties and things like that. But you know, that was my introduction to naval life, if you like.
Wow!
So it was not a pleasant one. But I also served on the carrier, Melbourne, and on another ship we had, a destroyer refitter, actually, called HMAS Stalwart. Almost got to the UK again to pick up HMS Invincible, which we were going to buy from the British. When Melbourne was scrapped. But then the Falklands War broke out, and the Brits decided to hang on to Invincible. So I missed out on that trip, which was a bit of a shame. But there you go. I mean, that would have changed the direction of the Navy quite a bit, because Invincible was equipped to carry Harriers, and it had one of those ski jump type flight decks. So the Australian Navy would then have had to invest in Harriers, and whereas Melbourne only used to carry Douglas A4 Skyhawks. So
they're the ones with the folding wings.
No. That was the Grumman trackers. The Skyhawks were a beautiful little jet fighter. We didn't have the squadron embarked when we picked up the refugees, but there was a squadron of Skyhawks. They were beautiful aircraft. A really wonderful fighter jet. But when Melbourne was scrapped, of course, we sold them off to the Kiwis.
Oh, wow. Well, and that's all the ships you were on?
Well, it's enough.
Yes, okay, and then a few little ones that you had to zip across to now and again.
You get, and of course I've been to sea on submarines and things like that too, but only briefly. I wasn't a submariner. But look, most of the time, if you're a doctor, you're going to serve on shore establishments anyway, because that's where you have most need for medical care and attention. But it was a very interesting life, and I think it was a great grounding, actually, for general practice, which is what I went into after that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're on 94.9 this morning. It is 18 minutes past 8. If you do have any questions for Dr. John, please send them through to our text line, 0401 949 949. And Dr. John, in the news over the last couple of weeks, there's been a few stories about the Earth and other planets, and one headline in particular, Earth's atmosphere could be a truly rare thing thanks to one chemical process. And I noticed in the story they're pretty much saying, hey, there's life on Earth, but we really don't know if there's any anywhere else.
Yeah, look, I know we've talked about that issue on other programs, Mick, but it's really interesting that it keeps cropping up, that Earth's atmosphere is really absolutely right for our life here on Earth. And it does seem, this is what the scientists call it, that Earth is in what they call the Goldilocks zone.
Yep.
That is not too hot, not too cold, but
Yes.
just right. You know? And it's a perfect atmosphere. And from a creation perspective, well, I mean, from an evolutionary perspective, they believe that it's evolved that way. But from the creation perspective, we would claim it's because God made it that way.
Yes.
Well, of course, science doesn't want to accept that. They can't allow God to get a look in. And, of course, because they then believe that the conditions were perfect on Earth for life to evolve, their argument goes that because there's billions of other stars out there and they've probably got planets revolving around them, that there have to be plenty of other opportunities for life to evolve somewhere out there in space. Not that there's been any evidence of it, and it's pretty hard actually for them to find any evidence of other planets. And one of the problems is that it's not just Earth that seems just right. Our sun is just right, because all the other potential stars that they find are what they call red dwarfs, and they're quite a bit cooler than the sun. And of course, you need light and heat for photosynthesis and things like that.
Yep.
So they know that the red dwarfs are probably not hot enough to keep the planet warm enough for life. Now, they don't actually see any planets revolving around these stars. They look for little perturbations in their orbit or changes in the light that they're emitting, which might suggest that there could be a planet revolving around them. And of course, with articles like you've just quoted, you'll always see this beautiful picture of another Earth-like planet with seas and clouds and, atmosphere.
That's exactly what they've got here. Yeah. So you're telling me that's just an artist's impression?
Yeah, I'm afraid, Mick, that is an artist's impression.
Oh, it even had a snowy mountain on it. I was thinking you could go skiing there.
Yeah, well, look, you're not going to be able to go to the snow on one of these other planets anytime soon.
Right.
But look, it really is interesting. They don't really know for sure that there are these planets out there, but they think it's pretty likely. But it's the atmosphere that is a problem, because here we are in our solar system. The two Earth-like planets in our solar system are Mars and Venus. And we know that they don't seem to have the sort of atmosphere that's needed. I mean, Mars looks pretty much like Earth. It's a very similar size. It's not that far away from the sun. But we know that the Martian atmosphere is nothing like the Earth's atmosphere.
Right.
And Venus looks like it's a pretty forbidding type planet with swirling carbon dioxide and raging hot and all this sort of stuff. So, look, it's not easy to find a place that would be suitable. And we've just got just the right concentrations of oxygen and carbon dioxide and nitrogen. Everything is just right. And it's pretty rare to find those conditions anywhere else.
Yes. It'd be interesting to see a real picture. Sadly, these pictures that I'm looking at are just pictures that someone's drawn up on a computer. And I'm with Dr. John from Creation Ministries International. Dr. John answers your questions. Any questions you send through to our text line, that is 0401 949 949. And we also talk about stuff that's come out in the news over the past week or so. And of course, Dr. John's been talking about a particular article that came out, and it's been related to a lot of other articles about aliens that have come out recently. But this one's in regards to the Earth's atmosphere that could be a truly rare thing. And Dr. John, in this particular article, I noticed they say stuff like, Earth is already a member of a relatively exclusive club. And they say there aren't many candidates that might have the kind of biochemistry we're familiar with. They're pretty much downplaying any chance of finding aliens. And then they throw in this line: still, if even a small fraction of billions of stars have a few large bodies circulating close enough to allow liquid water to pool on their surface, we could be looking up at hundreds of millions of Gardens of Eden in our galaxy. I mean, seriously, after everything else they'd said, and then all of a sudden we're looking up at hundreds of millions of Gardens of Edens, and they've been telling us why you can't find any out there. Interesting how they use the words Gardens of Eden as well.
Oh yes, Mick. Obviously, we know that the Garden of Eden was the most perfect place on earth when God created our planet, which of course they don't want to believe, but they still use the expression Garden of Eden.
Yes.
So look, it is absolutely true, Mick, that they have not really been able to find any evidence of anything that might have the perfect atmosphere like we have on Earth. And when you think about it, the atmosphere we have on Earth really is perfect. I mean, we've got the right concentration of oxygen, we've got it diluted with 80% nitrogen, and we've got carbon dioxide at the right concentrations as well. And the problem with all three of those gases, they are all toxic at the wrong concentrations. You know, I had a fair bit to do with diving in my time in the Navy. And yes, you can use plain oxygen for diving. I mean, it's very, very useful because if you incorporate into the diving suit a scrubbing apparatus to get rid of the exhaled carbon dioxide, you can then dive on oxygen and you don't produce any bubbles. So that was always quite an attractive proposition for military diving. But the problem is oxygen is toxic in high concentrations. And there's a limit for diving on an oxygen suit of about 9 or 10 metres because below that, if you get below that, you're very likely to convulse. So oxygen itself is toxic in high concentrations.
So when deep divers dive, what do they add to the oxygen?
They usually mix it with helium.
Right.
So helium's an inert gas, and of course even with very deep diving like the saturation divers, they've only got a very, very small percentage of oxygen in that atmosphere because the deeper you are, the less oxygen you need because its partial pressure is greater at depth. So it's quite a technical exercise really to work it out. But then carbon dioxide. Now, we're told that carbon dioxide is rising and what a dreadful thing that is for the planet. But in fact, a slight rise in carbon dioxide would probably be beneficial, I think, in terms of plant growth.
I've seen that written on a number of different sites as well.
Yeah, but of course, in high concentrations, carbon dioxide itself is toxic. And there have been some submarine tragedies where a lot of men died from carbon dioxide toxicity because they weren't able to be rescued in time. And then there's nitrogen. You know, if you have breathed nitrogen under pressure, that's toxic as well. So it's very obvious that Earth's atmosphere is absolutely just right. We are in the Goldilocks zone, and there hasn't been any evidence of any planet outside of our solar system or anywhere else in the universe that might have an atmosphere just right like that.
Yes, absolutely. And why does it matter to Christians?
Well, from a Christian perspective, what it indicates to us is that God made it that way. Now, when you think about it, if those conditions are just right, and if they varied in only a slight direction either way, life would not be possible, then you have to say, well, that looks like there's a hand of a creator in it.
Yes.
Now, evolutionists don't want to believe that, so they think that life has evolved here on Earth. But the conditions are just perfect for it, and they can't find those conditions anywhere else in the universe. And yet, so they're still searching for evidence of life out there because they believe that it evolved on Earth in the right conditions. But they haven't been able to find them. So from our perspective, that means that's the hand of the Creator. And, of course, we know who the Creator was, and his agent was the Lord Jesus in his pre-incarnate state.
Absolutely. And we have Dr. John in the studio from Creation Ministries International. Of course, Creation Ministries, they have their own website, creation.com, where you can go and get all sorts of questions answered. However, if you do have questions, we'd really like you to send them through, because chances are if you have a question, someone else has the same question. So send your questions through to 0401 949 949, and Dr. John can answer them on air. Now, Dr. John, we did have it was more a comment just sent through to us. There's an excellent video on YouTube called The Privileged Planet, and it gives heaps of info as to what makes Earth special. And, of course, you've been telling us that Earth is in what they call a Goldilocks zone, and we've been looking at articles where they pretty much say there's never been any evidence of anything else that can do what Earth does, and whilst, there could be millions of them up there, they've never found one, and they haven't even found, any evidence leading to one yet.
Yes, well, look, thank you to that listener who's texted that in, Mick. I remember watching that YouTube video, it'd be some years ago now, about the Privileged Planet, and it's very good. I don't think it's a Christian program. I think it's a secular program, but it'll cover, I think, a lot of the things that we've been talking about this morning. But, definitely something that's worth people watching, called The Privileged Planet. So thanks to that listener who sent it in. But of course, Mick, we've been talking about the belief that life might have evolved elsewhere. Yep. And it's interesting that we had in the last week or so the release of the official report on UFOs. Yeah, I'm sure you read that.
Because it's been on every media channel. They've been talking about it for weeks before they released it, and I'm pretty sure they're going to go on about it for a few weeks after as well. Interestingly, government says, yes, we found no evidence that there's such thing as an alien, and so the media has gone, they've found no evidence, which means maybe there still is one. I don't know how they get that. It's like, okay, you just got the complete opposite conclusion to what the government conclusion was.
Yeah. Well, I thought the report was a bit of a non-event, and really wouldn't have satisfied too many people, because they certainly didn't say, yes, we've found evidence of aliens, and all the people who believe in aliens would be pretty disappointed with that, I think. They were anxious to hear officially that, yes, we've conducted autopsies on alien bodies and all of this sort of stuff, but they didn't say anything about that. They did acknowledge that there are plenty of things that they haven't been able to explain, but they didn't admit to top secret experimentation of their own, of course, and wondered whether there might be top secret information in other countries like the Russians or Chinese that they don't know about. But it really didn't nail anything.
No, but a lot of the conspiracy theorists are saying, yes, they haven't said they don't exist. And it's like, well, duh. It's like, I just found it interesting. The media goes crazy on these things, and they love to blow them up. And so, of course, the question still is, why don't we keep looking to try and find something that nobody's ever found before?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no doubt that space exploration is a very, very expensive exercise, and I don't suppose it's unreasonable for us to do that. And a lot of spin-off benefits have come from space exploration. A lot of inventions and things have come from it, and we're pushing the boundaries of science, and all of that is good. But of course, the motivation behind a lot of it is to try and find life on other planets, and that's really because they don't want to believe that life is probably unique here on Earth. Now, we say probably unique. We, from a creationist perspective, we think it very, very unlikely that they would find life elsewhere. Because we do believe Earth is the privileged planet, and God has created life here, only here. But we'll see. But one of the things they did acknowledge that there were things that they hadn't been able to explain. But they didn't, you wouldn't expect them to, I suppose, mention what we think is the case at Creation Ministries, that there are some demonic manifestations that are quite deceitful and look like they might be alien life. And as we've mentioned before on the program, there are reports that when the name of Jesus is mentioned, some of these manifestations suddenly disappear. So there you go.
Yes. Well, Dr. John, still got so much more to ask you. Another great week, and I thank you for everything that we've gone through again this week. Will you be here next week?
I'll be here next week, and of course, don't forget, listeners, watch creation.com tonight at 7:30 and zoom in to the meeting. It's very easy to follow the prompts on the website. Zoom into that presentation on geological evidences for Noah's flood.
Yes, the geological mega catastrophe. And there'll be a live Q&A after the event, so that's in 10 and a half hours pretty much, and looks exciting.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that next week too, Mick.
Awesome. You are on 94.9 with Dr. John. If you do have any questions, send them through. We'll send them through to Dr. John for next week. Just send them to our text line 0401 949 949.